While there were a lot of critics and a lot of skepticism with this event, I think it's fair to say that NASCAR smashed it with this one. What is up, everyone? Welcome to the first edition of MDK Racing Victory Stop. My name is Jet. What a day of racing in LA. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. While there was a lot of good things that happened with this event, there were some things we do need to talk about. First off, let's start with the heat races. I mean, wow. The heat races, honestly, and I'm not surprised by this, they were the most entertaining part of the entire event, especially the last chance qualifiers. Each of the 4 stages, it was pretty calm at the very least. There were some moments, like each race had its own moment. Heat race number 1, you had Blaney, Stenhouse, and Denny Hamlin had a little scrap for the 3rd to 4th place position. Heat race number 2, you had Alex Bowman and Cole Cussler causing a bit of mayhem in this one. And also in Heat 4, with drivers like Austin Cindric, Kurt Busch, and Ryan Preece making that final heat race pretty interesting. But it was really the last chance qualifier from the second one where things just got completely crazy, and it was really the only time where there really was a wreck fest. It all started with around 15 laps ago or so, where Austin Cindric and Ty Dillon, I mean, they were literal wrecking balls, especially Ty Dillon. They would just run into each other the entire time. I mean, you have Bubba Wallace and Kurt Busch also getting caught up in both of their messes. I mean, it was absolute chaos. It took forever just to get 10 laps, while the first 40 laps were pretty calm. The last 10 felt like forever. It was really entertaining, but also really frustrating. And you had Ty Dillon, a driver who had issues at his own heat race, had to go into the last chance qualifier to make it into the main event. He was a wrecking ball, but somehow managed to win his last chance qualifier. However, he was then removed from the main event after he jumped the final restart. And that was the second time he jumped the restart in his LCQ race. So yeah, it was a bit of karma considering how reckless he was in that event. And also the first race of the LCQ, nothing much happened, but he did have a moment with Eric Almirola where he got tapped from behind and went hard into the outside wall. Considering how low the speeds are, I was surprised by how much damage was sustained to Almirola's car. But every single race had its own thing, you know, like all the heat races and the LCQs weren't boring. Each race had its own thing. Something happened that you had to see, especially the second last chance qualifier. And it automatically showed everyone that, hey, this is possible. You can race here. And, well, you can race here without any issues as long as you don't go crazy or let Ty Dillon on the racetrack. But regardless, it really showed that, hey, racing at the Coliseum in a football stadium in these cars is possible. It's not like a thing where it could only work in the 50s. No, it could still work in today's NASCAR. But if you haven't had the chance already, I highly encourage you check out the second last chance qualifier. If you can find it on YouTube, you need to check it out because so much stuff happened. It was so fun to watch. I mean, everyone was involved in it. Burton was involved. Keselowski was involved, Bowman was involved, everyone in that second LCQ was involved in some type of mess, which made it extremely entertaining. But with all that out of the way, we got the 23 drivers as a result of Ty Dillon being disqualified from his LCQ event for jumping the restart. The victory would then instead go to Ryan Preece, and the top 3 from that event would be Bubba Wallace, Harrison Burton, and Preece. They would advance to the main event. So we had our 23 drivers that would compete in the 150 lap main, and it was surprisingly pretty tame. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was still some really fun racing, some really good short track battles, but the end was kind of meh. But most importantly, there were no wreckfests. It was a really solid race, from my opinion. Now let's start out at the beginning. Kyle Busch and Tyler Reddick, they won each of their respective heat races, Heat 1, Heat 2, so they start on the front row. Reddick battles hard with Kyle Busch, but is able to take the lead. Reddick leading while he was leading the race. Justin Haley in a colleague racing car showed some real good speed, was running in 4th place, really strong, while Hamlin and Truex, they had to start at the back. They were already 1 lap down. I mean, considering the fact that they're at a quarter-mile track, it's gonna be very quick for you to go 1 lap down if you don't get up through traffic pretty quickly. I mean, especially with lap traffic. I mean, it was literally like LA traffic or New York lap traffic. I mean, you were just bumper to bumper the entire time. It seemed almost, considering how small the racetrack is, how big the cars are, and how large the field is. We had our first caution on lap 53 where Stenhouse Jr. got tapped by Harrison Burton in turn 3 for the first caution. Meanwhile, around this time, it seemed as though flies were dropping one by one. First off, it was Denny Hamlin. he pulls off the racetrack after reporting that he had a power steering belt go loose. So the 11 team is done for the day. Then around that same time, Chase Briscoe, another driver that seemed to have a really good shot at winning the race, he then pulls off track with just 1 lap to go with a driveline issue. On the same lap then, seconds later, Tyler Reddick, the leader of the race, he also pulls off to side on the side of the racetrack, reporting the same issue with a driveline issue. Now this is, of course, as a result of the next gen car. This is a brand new car. You're obviously going to get some kinks. Some issues are going to be shown when you take it in race trim for the first time. So I'm not surprised to see that there were issues with drivers with this new car. I was just hoping that we didn't see any more issues. Like we didn't just have cars stop dropping off like flies due to mechanical issues that were out of their control. All right, so when we get back to racing, Kyle Busch is now the new race leader, and he leads for around 10 to 11 laps. Then on lap 66 in turn 3, Chase Elliott, he spins all by himself. There was no mechanical issue. He just got up too high and spun himself out. Smacks the wall just a little bit, but didn't do too much harm to his car. We restart with Busch and Logano now up in front. Busch is able to stay out ahead of Logano with Haley in third, and then you had teammates William Byron and Kyle Larson rounding out the top 5. Then under 3 laps to go until the halfway break, Logano flexes some muscle, moves Kyle Busch up the racetrack in turn 3 to take the lead, and would lead up until the stage break. Restart with 75 laps to go for the second half of the main event. Busch takes the lead back on the restart from Logano. Now with 75 laps to go at the Coliseum, goes by quickly. That's only 16 and a half minutes or so. So you cannot waste any time, especially with how difficult it is to really pass here. You have to go at it. And Larson did just that around this point in the race. Took it 3 wide, which I didn't think would go well. Apparently it did go well. Larson was able to get underneath, take second place in turn 1, but still behind Kyle Busch. But still, Logano and Kyle Busch, they were the main stars. Logano had at this point in time started eating away at Kyle Busch's lead. And by the time he got up to Kyle Busch's back bumper, there was a huge traffic jam. I mean, considering, again, like I said, how small the track is, traffic jam was, of course, going to play a factor, and it did. And luckily for Kyle, a caution came out around this time, which took away lap traffic for a little bit. Eric Jones runs hard into the back end of Ryan Blaney and sends him into the wall. It may have cut a tire or broke something from Blaney's car because he went to, I guess, not the garage, but to the infield. And he would stay there for some time before coming back out on the racetrack later on. There were a bit of tempers flaring because Blaney apparently threw a Hans device at Jones when he ran by, but Fox never got that. They never got that. They just got the aftermath by showing the Hans device on the floor. Blaney was pretty upset, and Eric Jones was also pretty upset with Blaney at the end of the race. They had a little bit of a disagreement, but yeah, Fox, we got to talk about Fox because they did not do NASCAR any favors with this event. Anyways, we restart again. Logano, Busch side by side for the lead, but then a chain reaction begins. Byron runs into the back of Justin Haley, who then hits Kyle Larson. Larson, out of retaliation, thought that Haley did it on purpose, turns down on Haley and sends him hard into the inside wall for the 5th caution. Actually broke the wall just a little bit. Had to go to a red flag to repair that wall, but look, it was really scummy of Larson to do that. I mean, I understand he probably thought that it was Justin Haley's fault. He probably thought that Haley did it on purpose, but still, I mean, come on. I mean, the punishment or the crime or the punishment did not fit the crime, or however you want to call it. You know, Haley running into the back of Larson did not warrant as punishment for you to turn down on him and send him into the wall. Like that there was no need for that. You could have just, slammed into him once. Okay, fine. That was it. But you didn't need to keep turning down on him and send him into the wall. That was unnecessary, and I did not like that from Larson. Larson was able to move into 2nd place, dropping Busch to 3rd. However, a few laps later, Busch took the position right back, and then Larson got trapped up on the top lane, and he would go from 3rd to 6th as Austin Dillon, Eric Jones, and William Byron would go right by him. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch, because he fell back to 3rd, Logano got out to a big lead. As soon as Kyle Busch got ahead of Larson, he was starting to chomp away at Logano's lead. It was from 7/10 down to 4/10. Then around this time, near around 7 or so laps ago, Logano found something. Before, he was always getting so close to the inside wall to make sure that Busch never got a run to his inside. But then Logano decided to start going up the track a little bit and start diamonding the corner. He started doing that, and he started to build his lead back up on Kyle Busch. And by the final lap, Logano was 5 or 6 tenths ahead of Kyle Busch, and Logano was able to hold off Rowdy to win the inaugural Busch-like clash at the Coliseum. Technically, this is his second clash victory. He won at Daytona back in 2017, I believe, but of course, this one's going to be a lot bigger because he becomes the first driver in history to win at the Coliseum. Logano will lead 35 of the 150 laps, Kyle Busch in second, Austin Dillon with a late charge to third place, Eric Jones in fourth, Larson rounds out the top 5 with William Byron in sixth, Cole Custer 7th, Christopher Bell 8th, and then you have AJ Allmendinger 9th, Kevin Harvick 10th, and Chase Elliott in 11th. And here are the other drivers. 12th is Harrison Burton, 13th, Ricky Santos Jr., Daniel Suarez, and Mark Truex Jr. round out the top 15. Michael McDowell, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, Justin Haley, Ryan Preece, Tyler Reddick, Chase Briscoe, and Denny Hamlin round out the 23-car field. Okay, so now we got the racing out of the way. How was the event? Well, first of all, the event itself looked amazing. I mean, first of all, like I said, the NASCAR went all out. The crowd was incredible. I was not expecting the crowd to be this packed. For LA and how LA people are with sports, it was a really good crowd. I mean, I've heard the phrase with LA people, they show up late and leave early. But still, for a race in NASCAR, for a NASCAR race in Los Angeles, I thought it was a really good crowd. I don't know about y'all, but I thought it was more than what I expected. Now the concerts. Now the Pitbull and Ice Cube concerts, I'll be honest. Next time, if they do come back here, they need to do a bit more with the concerts. When you think of concerts, you think of a huge stage. You know, they really get the fans involved with it. The concerts here didn't really do that. Don't get me wrong, Pitbull and Ice Cube, especially Ice Cube near the end, really got the fans involved by doing some chants near the end of his performance. But when you think of the stage, there was only 3 LED boards, and that was about it. It wasn't until near the end where they started to add like smoke flares and maybe some fireworks, but that was about it. It wasn't much to it. I would say that. I think next time they need to do a little bit more with the concerts. But I'm saying right now, I do not mind Ice Cube performing the Daytona 500 in 2 weeks because let's be honest, we need a bit of seasoning for concerts. Let's be honest. Speaking of seasoning, the crowds, they were so off beats. They were so off beats with Ice Cube's performance. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I do believe that they were already drunk by this time, so they were probably just like going with the music and not really paying attention to what's going on. The Fox camera guy, I don't know who you are, but you need to stop getting close-up shots of women, like women and like revealing clothing. You need to stop that. That was a bit weird. I mean, there was a shirtless guy or a guy in overalls just sitting there. Y'all didn't zoom in on him. But anyways, I digress. But the most important thing I think we need to talk about is Fox and how they cover the race. The camera work was awful. For a track that is a quarter of a mile, or a track that small, show us the racing, not these close-up shots. Okay, we don't need a close-up shot of a front bumper and a rear bumper of 2 cars. We don't need that. Show the whole picture of it. And this is not a situation that has just come up recently. This has been a huge problem with Fox for years now, where they're so addicted with these close-up shots for some unknown reason. There were also they also missed some good moments, like with Ryan Blaney throwing a Hans device at Eric Jones. That could have been a great highlight you could have used for a future package, and there's no footage of that anywhere. A bit annoyed about the commercials. I didn't see it as such a big deal. It was a bit annoying, the fact that, so many laps go by in such a short amount of time, and the fact that they needed so many full-size commercials, again, was a bit annoying. But again, Fox has been doing that for years. It's nothing new. That was really my overall complaint with it. It was the camera work. It could have been so much better. The commentary, I loved. I love the Mike Joy, Clint Boyer, and Tony Stewart, especially Stewart. I don't know. I know Stewart probably doesn't want to do this full time, but he needs to do this full time. If Fox ever has the opportunity, give Stewart a full-time contract because the man knows his stuff. The man knows how to analyze a race. He was really good. I was surprised for his debut. Was really good. He was really able to be very technical with how the car drives, what a driver is thinking, what it's doing. So personally, I would love to see him join for the entire season. Not just the 502 weeks, but for the rest of Fox's coverage. The broadcast network needs to do a better job at actually covering the race in terms of how it's being produced. Overall, I don't think there was really much complaints about it. I mean, and I think that was the most surprising part. Usually you would find some issues. Yes, and I'm not talking about racing. I know the next gen car has some kinks to it, and it has some issues to it with the driveline issues and the independent suspension issues. I understand that, and I'm pretty sure that will be fixed later on as we get more and more reps with the next gen car. But in terms of the event, like looking at the entire event, really, there really wasn't much to complain about, which I was surprised by. Again, great crowd, a lot of good things happening. You know, Cube and Pitbull put on great performances. Nothing much to complain about, really, except for really Fox. So was it a success? Absolutely, it was a success. They should definitely come back next year, whether for the Clash or for the All-Star race. They definitely need to come back next year. Great crowd, and I think usually when it comes to crowds, for something like this, it's going to build over time. So now that people have heard about it, now that people have seen what it looks like, I think they'll now have a better idea on whether to attend it next season or not. So I definitely think that NASCAR should return here next season. It was a great idea. There was a lot of risk with this event, and I think it paid off. We'll know with TV ratings in a couple days, but in terms of the event, it felt huge, and I think NASCAR nailed it. They hit it out of the park, and I think they should come back next year. Or at the very least, also maybe look at other sports stadiums, like maybe, who knows, maybe Soldier Field, but they should also look at other stadiums and potentially could see about holding a race there. But I think this just gave NASCAR the green light to look at opportunities at holding races at stadiums. And based on this race, A+. Well, A. Again, there were some things they needed to fix, but overall, A. The racing, really fun to watch. The production itself was really great by NASCAR. Fox, you need to get your stuff together. But other than that, I was completely satisfied. But that's just my opinion. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. What did y'all think of the Busch Clash at the Coliseum? Did you like it? Did you not? What are some things that you felt like could have been changed or could be adjusted for next year's race? Yeah, the Daytona 500, 2 weeks away on February 20th. I'm excited for that one. But until next time, my name is Jeff from MDK. Thank y'all so much for watching. Congratulations to Joe Logano, your winner at the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum.